kind of feels like it's Saturday morning in Salt Lake City after last night's game. I imagine a lot of locals are a little sluggish today, may not be fully there, may have celebrated a little hard after the absolute drubbing of the Minnesota Wild by the Utah Hockey Club last night. 6-1 win. It felt like everything went right. It was incredible. We will be talking about that game. We're going to be talking about this playoff push because guess what? The Utah Hockey Club are right in the thick of it. And just around the corner is the trade deadline. I know we've already had a couple episodes about it, but things are becoming a little bit more clear of who may be on the block, who we may be interested in. So we are going to be discussing that. And we have a good friend of the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast, Brogan Houston from the Deseret News, who will be joining us. This is Clean Hits Hockey. I think this is episode 40, believe it or not. And I'm not even counting our little quick hit segments or the not so clean hits post-game shows. Kenny, how are you doing, my man? It's been a bit since you and I have been on a show.
Yeah. I've been well, just been busy, but it's nice to come back here and just chop it up, talk some hockey. I'm really excited. I just hearing you talk about it. A couple weeks ago, it kind of felt like we had an outside chance of making the playoffs, and now we are right there. I think we're 2 points behind Vancouver right now. I know they have a game in hand, but I think we play them again one more time too. So I'm really excited. This is going to be an awesome couple weeks of hockey here. And then now we get to watch Ovi on his chase too. So things are going well in hockey right now.
Yeah, no kidding. And then I know you may be a little bit sluggish like the majority of the people in Salt Lake City. So hope you're feeling all right. Hope you had a lot of fun at that wedding last night. We saw your dance moves. Keep your eye out. Maybe you'll share it with some of the friends and Clean Hits too and the Utah Hockey Club fans.
If I'm ever out with any of you guys and I insist on doing the worm, put me in a chokehold, please, because everything hurts. I tore everything. The whole right side of my body is basically hanging on by a thread. So, but yeah, great time, and I'm glad that the people in Salt Lake had something to celebrate as well last night.
Yep, and Clean Hits, we have something to celebrate too. Yeah. Really, really excited and thrilled to announce our new partnership with Overtime Cards and Collectibles. This is Utah's premier sports and gaming card shop. If you haven't heard of them, you have to know because they are becoming a huge asset to kind of the Utah Hockey Club community. They're located at 10673 South State Street in Sandy, which is, guess what? Right next to your Utah Hockey Club's brand new future practice facility. So I have a feeling there's going to be tons of meetups. There's going to be tons of maybe post-practice hangs over there. This is going to be an awesome hub for you guys to connect and maybe meet more Utah Hockey Club fans. They've already hosted Dylan Gunther for a public signing event, and that drew, no pun intended, a mammoth turnout. And guess what? On March 21st, write it down in your calendar right now. The GOAT himself, Mikhail Sergachev, will be doing a signing event at Overtime Collectibles and Cards as well. Again, that's March 21st from 5 to 7 p.m. Make sure you get your tickets because this one is selling out fast. And guess what? You can get those tickets at overtimecardsandcollectibles.com. Make sure you're following them on X as well. That's at Overtime Cards UT. And that way you can stay up to date on all their other events. I may have heard they may have some more. They may have some more meetups. I know they do events where you guys crack card packs together. It's just seems like a huge, fun, awesome place. We even had some of our Australian friends like Flo, who are in our Discord, swing by the shop themselves to get some collectible cards for their kids. I do believe the new Upper Deck 2024-25 season packs are coming out next week. It's going to be the first time you will have Utah Hockey Club players wearing the Utah uniform in a Upper Deck Sports trading card. So again, huge thank you for this partnership with Overtime Cards and Collectibles. Extremely excited. Make sure you're there for that Mikhail Sergachev signing. Going to pop that up on the screen so you can see it. And again, yeah, make sure you get your tickets ASAP because it is going quick. And while you're digesting all that information, I have a pack of 2020-2021 Upper Deck Young Guns. We're going to crack that. We got to see if we got anything cool, because after this sponsorship kind of came through, I realized how fun it is to do this. So I bought packs for myself. So
I thought you were opening like a bag of chips or something. Now I'm excited. Here we go.
We got a Justin Schultz when he was on the Capitals. Tia Janmark. Chris Wagner. We're not doing great yet. We do have Alex Pietrangelo. Whoa. Ooh. Braden Holtby. I have not seen or thought about him in a while.
You kind of look like him.
And then our young gun, Mikhail Maltevs.
Who?
Apparently a Jersey prospect. I do not remember him.
Okay.
But, you can't win them all, and that's why you got to get multiple packs. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think it's right about time to bring Brogan on, and let's get into the thick of it. Brogan, how are you doing? It's great to see you. It's been a while, and it does look, perfect.
It's been too long, you guys. You gotta invite me back. I was like, man, did these clean hits guys, did I say something? What went wrong? It's good to be back.
It's completely our own problem. We forget things a lot. So,
doing these on the fly sometimes.
Like how to finish sentences properly too. But no, it's great to have you back, bro.
Yeah. No, exciting times with the team. Again, kind of like Kenny mentioned, there was a point where it felt like in a 2-week stretch, it felt like this is going to be the team that can make it, get in the playoffs. And then a 2-week stretch where you're not feeling that's hot about that. We are pretty much into March. We're recording on February 28th. And, it feels like we're going to be playing meaningful games, maybe down to the very last game or two. It's really, really exciting. So is there anything that has really kind of stood out to you, kind of covering the team for the Deseret News, and anything like a momentum shift, a mentality shift that you've seen, or could it be obviously the huge additions of getting John Marino and Sean Dursey back and having the team be fully healthy? And is that why we're seeing some of this home crowd success and just success in general?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there. Obviously, you're going to be better when you have your full-time NHL guys that are making most of the money all in the lineup all at the same time, as opposed to some of these guys that they got on waivers. Nothing against DeSimone or Valimaki or any of the other guys that have played kind of that replacement level game, but it's not a big secret that John Marino is a better player than those guys, and that Sean Dursey is as well, and that Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther, now that they're back, they're contributing. And yeah, I just think everything's kind of clicking right at the right time. They didn't have a ton of guys that went to the Four Nations, and so everybody got that nice break, got to come back with some tans and whatnot, and I just think things are clicking right now, and it's a kind of a perfect storm.
Yeah, that's the coolest part, like you said, just, finally getting the chance to see the team that Bill Armstrong built. And there was, credit to Frank Saravalli. He's been beating this drum for a while now. He's like, don't sleep on Utah. Do not sleep on Utah. I know they're, and everybody's shooting them down. He's like, they're going to have 2 of their top 4 defensemen coming back right when things are starting to get interesting. And I mean, look at the results. It's crazy. I mean, we're right in the thick of it. And we do play Vancouver one more time. That'll be a huge 4-point swing right there. Right. So I'm super excited to the point where I know I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself here, but we got the trade deadline in a week. I wouldn't even be all that upset if we didn't do anything. We just wrote it out.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
And don't be surprised if they don't do anything either. Bill Armstrong's kind of hinted at it in the media publicly recently that they did a lot of adding over the offseason. They made the 2 trades, Mikhail Sergachev and John Marino. They made a ton of free agent signings. Most of those guys are playing really big roles for the team right now. Ian Cole, Kevin Stenlund, who am I missing? Anyway, they made some nice signings, and so they've done some good adding, and they're a better team than they were last year. That's clear. And they're in the playoff push. That's clear. And so they're not going to go ahead and sell off all these guys, maybe a couple of replacement level guys or a couple of guys that maybe aren't playing as much. But they're not going to go and sell Karel Vejmelka, I don't think. They're not going to go and get rid of any of these guys that are on long-term deals, nothing like that. Maybe a Bugstad or a Michelli, maybe, but nothing roster changing really.
That's. Oh, go ahead, Brett.
Well, and one comment I wanted to add was, and we mentioned this on an earlier episode, I think especially right when Sean Durzi went out and we got news about how long that injury is going to be. In a lot of ways, getting Durzi and Marino back are kind of your big deadline acquisitions.
Yeah.
I mean, we've only had Durzi in for 7 games. He only played really 3.5 before the injury. We are 6-1 in those 7 games with him in the lineup, outscoring opponents 29-19. Another fun fact that Corey from Clean Hits had pointed out too is with Sean Durzi in the lineup for those games, the team is 36.4% on the power play, and without him, obviously a much larger sample size, but they were at a 22% on the power play unit. So that is a big boost, and this is more than just kind of your typical trade deadline pickup where you're getting a depth guy, maybe filling in that bottom pair on defense or somebody that fits in the bottom 9 of your forward roster. These are 2 top 4 defensemen that are back in the lineup, kind of fresh, maybe still a little bit banged up, but they definitely have their legs behind them now, and it's really fun to see the impact they've made already.
And I'll add that they're amped up to play. Like, those guys are so juiced up, especially Durzi. Like, I don't know if you guys saw his comments last night, but he called it a relentless brotherhood. And Keller reciprocated that towards Durzi when we talked to Keller right after that. And so, I just think they're all having fun. They're all getting along, and Durzi, like, he lives for moments like these, where it matters, where the crowd is into it. I don't know if you guys have been to the Delta Center yet, but it gets loud in there. And that's what Durzi performs the best. That's his best situation that he performs under.
Yeah, it is so exciting to watch the team in the locker room afterwards when they're getting the game ball and everything like that, because we knew coming from Arizona that this was a tight group. They're all young. They kind of grew together, went through a lot of crap in Arizona together, and it really bonded them well. And so I know, like, getting to a stable situation and with the ownership the way it is, I knew that this team was going to be amped up, and that they were going to, and not only close in the locker room but on the ice as well. And I think it's been very evident that they all believe in each other, and that I guess we didn't really get too far ahead of ourselves. I'd like to ask you what approach would you like to see Bill Armstrong have at the deadline here? Because, like you mentioned, you almost don't want to subtract from this group just because of how well they're getting along and how well they're playing. But I mean, there are going to be teams probably interested in Nick Bugstad. We can't ignore the Michelli situation. I mean, it's been going on for a while, and at one point he was seen as part of the core. So I'm curious to know what you think, or what you'd like to see and what you think will happen.
Yeah, I think hockey trades are on the table. And so if that's, a guy that's maybe underperforming in a different market and you can buy him for cheap, or maybe it's a guy that, is adequately performing, but they like one of your guys, and so you do a hockey trade, a swap, or maybe even, a selling team like a San Jose or a Chicago or a Nashville, like one of those teams that's not going to make the playoffs. maybe you look at one of their guys and you say, hey, you're in a rebuild, take our prospect, take our pick. They're not going to help us for another few years until, our window might be on the way to closing anyway. And so I do think hockey trades are on the table. I don't think that they're going to sell, anything that's worth a first round pick. So they're not chasing draft picks at this point. And Bill Armstrong has said that a few times. They have enough of them. They still have quite a few for the next couple drafts here. And so, I think that they're past that stage, but look for them to try and improve their team beyond just this year. They're not going out and getting rental guys on expiring deals. They would want people that could stay in the lineup and that could contribute for this team for the next however many years.
Okay.
Yeah, and that trade deadline is next Friday, March 7th. And typically in years past, we've seen kind of some of the big trades happen the days before it. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. We already saw that Rantanen for Martin Necas trade, the kind of blockbuster. You got to think there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to be willing to make some moves, maybe move around some draft capital, especially with the salary cap going up. That will give them more flexibility to potentially re-sign any unrestricted free agents they trade for. But to kind of go back to that idea about maybe Bill Armstrong not wanting to move players for picks, it does make me wonder if there's a certain breaking point with that. And there's one name I do have circled, and that would be Mr. Ian Cole, who has been fantastic, but he's kind of a playoff warrior. And we saw similar players like Chris Tanev last year fetch a haul. It does make me curious if Armstrong sees an opportunity that he just cannot refuse with maybe kind of a player that can still help the Utah Hockey Club get into the playoffs, but maybe not somebody that will be here long-term because he is an upcoming unrestricted free agent. Or do you think it's go for glory?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. He is kind of built for the playoffs, aside from the first couple games of the second round last year. The Canuck fan in me still feels for him. I think he scored 3 times on his own net in the first couple games there. But that aside, he's built for the playoffs. He's made the playoffs every single year except his rookie year. Let that sink in for a second.
Wow,
he's played 15 years or something. He's missed the playoffs once, and it was when he was 20 years old or something. I don't know.
Jeez.
He's built for the playoffs. He has the experience. He has 2 Stanley Cup rings. He's gone deep into the playoffs multiple times. So yeah, he could help this group. He could help somewhere else. I do think he'd be valuable. He's not making a ton of money, and so if Utah were to retain 50%, like any team could fit that into their cap. And if he's playing a third pairing role, like that's perfect. But again, if Utah squeaks in, he's equally as valuable to this team. So we'll see what they do, but that is a good one to watch out for sure.
So based off of what you guys are kind of saying, I think the only scenario that makes sense is if someone steps up and stupidly overpays for him. Sure. At the point where, and I'm not predicting it'll happen, but if someone did offer a late first for Ian Cole, I think you have to consider that one, right? Especially Valimaki down in Tucson now, and he plays the left side. But I'd be happy just keeping him, just see with all that good juju. Any playoff teams, or I'm sorry, non-contending teams rebuilding that are right on the cusp. Make sure you go out and sign Ian Cole, and you'll break your playoff drought. And I'm hoping that's what he does for us. So I just for that alone, I'm thinking I want to hang on to him, but I could see.
Yeah. But then again, rentals are probably going to be pretty expensive at this deadline, just because there's so many teams in the playoff picture. And not everybody's going to make it, but everybody thinks they're going to make it. Maybe Utah's in that picture, maybe not. But there's only 16 teams that are going to make it. I called the league and checked, and they said, 16 teams this year.
No fudge in the numbers.
Yeah, Gary's not going to let 24 in. And so, there's realistically only a few teams that know that they're out. And so they're going to be the only ones really selling, unless a few extra GMs just make that decision like, hey, we're going to sell. So it's not out of the question that somebody like Ian Cole could get a pretty good return. I don't know about a first round pick, maybe not, but he'd be valuable for sure, just because there's not
Yep.
that much quantity available.
Yep. And again, that cap's going up. So it's kind of like an audition. If you like him on your team, you may have a couple extra million to re-sign him this season, where in previous seasons you would have been cap strapped.
Yeah. No, I do feel bad for Ian, just because I think it's either 5 or 6 years in a row that he's played for a different team every year. So, I would love for him to kind of plant his roots in Utah for the rest of his career, but we'll see. I don't even know what he wants to do. I haven't talked about that to him. So, but he's moved around quite a bit.
Maybe he's one of those guys that kind of built up a callus to it, and he just kind of expects it. And like, hey, you know what? Every year I get to go play for a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
so
smart. Time to move.
Right. Yeah. Start packing up in February, honey. I think we're gonna have a busy year this year. Real quickly, I wanted to know your perspective and yours too, Brad. What kind of player do you think that this team is potentially missing and could put us over the hump, I guess you could say, that you'd like to see us add come next Friday?
I'll go first because I've sat around and talked about this with the rest of the Clean Hits crew, everybody in our Discord, which you can access at discord.cleanhitshockey.com. Great community there. We sit around and chat trades all damn day. I think upgrading at center will be very valuable, especially because when you think about, we got somebody like Nick Bukestad, who may not be here next season, another unrestricted free agent. He may even be kind of valuable to a playoff team. And if we are talking about finding a hockey trade or an upgrade, maybe it's something like Bukestad plus Michelli for more of a long-term 3C for this team. Now, Hayton has really started to emerge these past couple of weeks, and it's really making me rethink some of my ideas of maybe going for somebody like a Dylan Cousins. But time and time again has proven you can really never have enough centers, especially ones that play both sides of the ice well and can be productive. So do I mind if we have two kind of 2C 45 to 55, 60 point guys? No, absolutely not. But I don't think I'm as concerned as of maybe overpaying for a 2C now, but maybe finding that long-term vet who can play a hard-nosed game that has maybe 2 or 3 years left on his contract, that can either play 3C or maybe even a top 6 winger who only has 2 to 3 years. Pittsburgh's got some of these guys. Brian Rust kind of
sounds like you're talking about Casey Middlestat there.
No, I
wonder about that one. Maybe
that would be an interesting name. I have my own opinions on him, but it may be one of those guys that just needs another fresh start. So that's kind of the area I'm thinking. I'm not as concerned about the blue line right now, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the bottom 6 is really the only part of this lineup that you could even nitpick at this point in the season.
Right.
Those top 2 lines have been dynamite. And even that third line of Lawson Krause, Jack McBain, and Josh Jones.
Oh my God, it's so fun.
They've fantastic. It's given brand new life to the bottom 6.
Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of times this year where I've been like, oh yeah, Lawson Krause, like he is, the thing that they need right now. But to his credit, he's kind of turned around after the break and he's become what he was in Arizona, at least for the last couple of games. He told us that he was, I don't know if you saw the interview, but he told us that he was looking at his past goals from past years over the break and kind of visualizing and seeing what he needed to do. And he came to the conclusion that he needed to shoot more. And so that's something that he's been doing. And you can see it in his shot averages. He was above average in shot attempts and shots on goal last night. He was taking the puck to the net a lot more, kind of just bullying his way to the front of the net rather than, kind of taking these low confidence shots or trying to pass on the rush. I think that third line is doing really well right now. So the fourth line really, that's the only thing you could nitpick, but I really don't think that there's anything that would take them from where they are now and make them to a Stanley Cup contender at this point in the season. Like short of getting a McDavid kind of guy, I think that they're in a good place right now, and long-term building is kind of what they're working towards, turning Logan Cooley into that maybe Jack Eichel kind of guy, turning turning Dylan Gunther into I don't know an example off the top of my head, but a 50-goal scorer rather than a 30-goal scorer. Pasternak, something like that. And so I think that's kind of the building that they have to work towards.
Agreed. And that some of that is just a matter of time situation rather than can that player do it. It may just take a couple more seasons to hit those points, but you can definitely see the skill kind of night in and night out with those guys. And it's been fun to hear players on other teams kind of mention their names.
Now, did you see my Bedard interview the other day?
That's the one I was hinting at.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome.
Do you remember the exact quote it was?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
It was something along the lines of, you see Cooley and Gunther out there as some of the highest skilled players in the league, or something along the lines.
Yeah.
Very, very complimentary.
I ended up asking Brock Faber 2 days later about Logan Cooley as well, and he gave a similar quote, like, really intelligent player, like vision and speed and all that kind of stuff is stuff that you really have to watch out for him. I've said this a couple times before, and I'll say it again. In my opinion, there's no U20 player in the league or like prospect or anybody that has a higher ceiling than Logan Cooley, aside from Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini. I think Cooley's ceiling is above Michkov. I think it's above, all these other top forwards. I'm blanking right now, but I do think that Logan Cooley is that caliber of player.
Yeah, it's really coming through. I mean, the assist, the setup he had for Nick Schmaltz last night was Crosby-esque.
Yeah. I think I said U20. I meant U21. I don't know what I actually said. He's 20 right now, so whatever that is.
Yeah. No, that's right. The most impressive part about that setup, did you see what he did in the neutral zone? Before he walked in, it was just like the most nonchalant, absolute undressing of a player ever. And it was like I caught myself rewinding it 3 times. I'm like, how did he do that?
Yeah.
What was that? And he just completely went down and took care of business. And I agreed. It did look kind of Crosby-esque. I love that.
And he's only 20 years old. Like, what were you guys doing when you were 20? Like,
not what he.
I don't want to repeat. I can't really disclose that on air.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Me and Brad hung out a lot. It is nice to not be in a position where you have to go out and acquire a number one center. Like, we finally have one. And he's just now showing us what he can do, and it's incredible. And then pair that with Gunther, a pure sniper. Like, that's what every team wants, is a bona fide number one center and a bona fide sniper. And we have 2 of them around the same age group, in the same age group. So it's going to be really fun to watch. I think, really quickly, because I don't want to take up all the airwave here, but I think what I'd like to see is maybe a little bit of toughness, because I do think we have a tougher team, but I don't want Jack McBain being the guy that has to step up and maybe fight somebody or take them off the ice for 5 minutes. I think it would have been nice to add someone like Trent Frederick. I think that ship has sailed now, just due to the fact that he's on the IR. But somebody out there that can like pack a punch, be a pest, that you can place on the fourth line with no hesitation. Like, I would love Olivier out of Columbus, but I don't think they're getting there. I don't think they're going anywhere. Yeah, that guy is a nail gun. But somebody like that. And I can't really pinpoint a certain player. I'm sure Bill Armstrong has a much more qualified team than me. So hopefully that's something that they'll address without subtracting a piece.
I do have to mention that Liam O'Brien fits into that category.
He does. He does. And I always feel bad because he's a good hockey player too. He's a good hockey player.
Yeah.
So, and he's been drawing into the lineup over Michelli. So I do think maybe they've identified a need for that. Maybe you're right. Maybe he just needs more reps, and he can be that guy that, will make somebody think twice before taking a run at Logan Cooley or Dylan Gunther.
For sure. Yeah.
Now, we got 2 more games before that deadline, against New Jersey on Saturday and then against Detroit. I believe that's that following Thursday, the night before the deadline. So it's going to be pretty murky of where this team sits, whether they should be sellers or buyers. So I think kind of the strategy that we've all just kind of discussed here is really what we're going to see of maybe finding a hockey trade, a long-term-ish piece to add, maybe obviously not probably a superstar at this point, and maybe that the big moves will happen this summer. But this entire idea of the playoff push and covering it, what are some of the most interesting or exciting storylines that you want to cover for this last month or so of hockey, Brogan?
That's a good question. I would love to cover a playoff push. A playoff run, I guess I should say. I am covering a playoff push. I would love to cover a playoff run. I've actually never even been to a NHL playoff game in my entire life.
Yeah.
Cole was making fun of me for it. Cole Bagley was making fun of me for it. He's like, even I've been to a playoff game. But I would love to just kind of have that experience, be in the building. I've obviously watched playoff hockey my entire life since I could crawl, basically, and it's a different animal, and I think Utah is about to see that. Maybe this year, maybe next year. 2 years from now, whatever it is, but eventually they'll see how crazy playoff hockey is, how loud it is, how hard, how physical, how fast, how little there is, how little room guys give you, to make mistakes and whatnot. So I would love to cover that, whether it's this season, next season, whatever.
Yeah, I think we're going to need to make Clean Hits branded earplugs for playoff games, because just knowing
let me know when you do,
because arena gets, it's going to be ear piercing.
Yeah, I've been in the market for some earplugs. It's getting a little ringing in between those ears, recently. So it's loud.
We'll make them like ridiculous, our styles. We'll make it funny. We'll make it funny.
They'll be like mammoth like ears.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
Yep. You just did it for us. Thank you, man.
There you go.
So I think it's going to be really cool for the people of Utah as well. I know the Jazz have been going through like a little bit of a longer rebuild. I'm not a huge basketball guy, so if they're suddenly at the top of the standings, take that with a grain of salt. Okay, good. But it's almost the perfect time to capitalize on this and really solidify hockey as Utah's sport, right? Because they're being patient with the basketball team, but at their first year, like I think I said, I referred to Arizona hockey moving into Utah as like the bully cousin from Arizona came in, and now he's everybody's favorite. I think it would be awesome for the people of Utah to not only have something to celebrate, but to maybe make the Utah Hockey Club Utah's #1 team. And I know that's a tall order. I know the Jazz have been there for a while, and Ryan Smith probably doesn't like the sound of it too much. But hey, I think it'd be awesome. It'd be perfect time to capitalize on it. So I think one last comment. You mentioned something, Brogan, or I'm sorry, it might have been you, Brad, about if we don't do anything, this summer could potentially be massive. And I've talked about this before, but let's say we don't do anything and we miss the playoffs by 2 points, or we get in, but we get bounced out pretty quick because we're going to be probably playing a Winnipeg or something along those lines. Just Bill knowing how close we are to being a perennial playoff team, this summer should be the most exciting summer for any Arizona hockey or Utah hockey fan, because he's not going to stand idly by. This I have a feeling we're going to see some fireworks. So I'm almost welcoming the fact that we're going to have a quieter deadline just for that reason.
I'll put it this way. Some people around the team, not anybody that works for the team, but a lot of people that pay close attention have been referring to Mitch Marner as future Utah Hockey Clubber Mitch Marner.
That's crazy.
Wow. That's not coming from the team. I'll make that clear.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I've heard that term more than once around the rink recently.
In the Mikko Rantanen name has been thrown around quite a bit before. I had initially seen some of the tweets about both those names and always kind of chalked it up to just the fact that this team is going to have so much cap space. And then, of course, GMBA goes on, I think it was Jay Stevens' podcast, and he kind of shut it down. He kind of talked about you don't want to just kind of spend all the cap space you have and then have problems later. But, and I think we highlighted this in our best GMBA trades episode way back when, I think in like September or something. So go check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. But General Manager Bill Armstrong does not like to show his hand at all. So would it shock me if he continually beats the drum that no, we're not going to spend. No, we don't want to get stuck against the wall with all of our cap space deleted by certain players, and then just turn right around and throw a big fat check at Marner or Rantanen and add them to the roster? It wouldn't shock me.
We're not going to spend a lot of money the next day, July 2nd. We signed both Marner and Rantanen. We're going to hand out a paycheck to Logan Cooley here soon too. So,
and we took on the Erik Karlsson contract. From
Yeah.
No, I will say for sure. One thing that Bill Armstrong likes to do is under-promise and over-deliver.
Yep.
And I think this could be a good example of it. We'll see. It may or may not be, but he does like to do that.
Well, speaking of over-delivering, Clayton Keller is having an insane season.
Yeah.
Brad and I were talking about it. I mean, he's at 69 points in, I believe, 59 games right now. That's 94, 95 point pace right there.
And he's tied for 9th in the league in points right now.
Right.
Why did Team USA leave this guy off their roster? I don't get it.
No idea.
Yeah.
As a Canadian, I'm glad, but as a Utah Hockey Club beat reporter, I gotta ask the question for sure.
Right. It's kind of crazy to watch this. We were talking about how we think he's taken the captaincy very serious, and it shows. He's playing a tougher game. He's in there, scrumming it up a little bit more, and he's having, statistically his best career or year of his career so far. How much longer can he sustain this? How good can he get? Do you see this as we're right now experiencing his peak years, and this is a player that slows down, or have we just opened up a can?
I definitely do think this is around his peak. Maybe he gets a little higher or whatever, but I do think this is at least the beginning of his peak. But I don't think slowing down is the right word. Eventually everybody slows down, but he's 26 years old. I don't think that's the age where people start to slow down. I think that's about the age where they start to peak. And so, maybe he sustains something like this within this neighborhood of points until he's 30, 31, 32, something like that. That's about normal for guys to drop off around that age. So, if they can put together a winning team in the next 5 years or so, Clayton Keller could still be the captain of that team, and he could still lead them through the playoffs and to the Stanley Cup.
Well, and then you got to think about it. He's got young players around him who are only going to get better. So as Gunther starts to really explode on the point per game pace, or Cooley starts to reach that point per game pace, you got to think that's only going to elevate Keller's game and what he can produce. And going back to what you just mentioned, if he has, let's say, Mitch Marner or Mikko Rantanen on his line next year, what are we talking about? No, it's been fascinating to watch him. And Kenny, I've been watching him since his rookie year, kind of exploded with around 60 points his rookie season, then kind of stalled out a little bit. And then past 3 seasons, it's been really fun to watch him and really start to eclipse career totals. But there's kind of always been that concern of, is he putting up this many points because he's the focal point of the offense? Now he's a huge contributor of it. He's one of the main cogs of it, but we don't need Keller to score every night to be able to put up multiple goals.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see him kind of unchained in a way. That backhand goal he scored near the end of the game, that looks so effortless last night.
So good.
It's such a prime example. Like, team's ahead, and he just decides to absolutely slam the door with style. And speaking of style, we got to do a little self-promotion. I'm sorry.
That's
you got to
beautiful.
get your Clayton Keller, Mr. Versatility, Team USA snub shirt. If you're not watching on YouTube, mosey on over to shop.cleanhits.hockey.com. That's shop.cleanhitshockey.com to get any of our merch, including that Mammoth Club shirt I'm wearing, our Dylan Gunther Costco shirt, and of course that Clayton Keller, Mr. Versatility, Mr. 5-Point Knight.
Oh my gosh.
Just unbelievable what he's done on the stretch. Barrett Hayton has been absolutely fantastic. I really, really love having him play with Gunther and a high energy guy in Carconi, just to kind of divvy up kind of the skill sets. I think him playing with Schmaltz and Keller was kind of coming to him struggling to find his role on that line, or maybe even going too far into that plumber role. And now we're seeing kind of the offense pop again with him too. And then I do want to really quickly bring up just how good this team system has been playing for this playoff push. Want to give a shout out to Craig Morgan, who brought this up today. You can follow him at Craig S. Morgan on X and Twitter. And I know he's on Blue Sky as well. Shot suppression. So the last 3 teams we played, Vancouver, Chicago, and Minnesota, yes, they're near the bottom of the teams for shots for per game. In fact, Chicago is 32nd. I believe Minnesota was 21st, and Vancouver is, I think, 25th or 26th, least amount of shots for per game played. But specifically Vancouver and Minnesota, we're talking about nearly 10 shots less than their average. So again, if you're not watching on YouTube, we have his tweet pulled up. Vancouver averages 25.2 shots for per game played. They had 16 when the Utah Hockey Club played them. Chicago averages 24.8. They had 22 in that game. Minnesota averages 27.9. They only had 17 shots on goal last night. This seems like a system that is clicking. This seems like a relentless system, and all the skill sets are kind of in place and people are playing up to their roles. And if that's going to help this playoff push, you have to be excited about just how far it can go.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's a testament to, like the third line, how, those guys play a certain identity and they clog up the middle of the ice, and they really put teams on their heels early. So credit to Andre Tourney and the coaching staff and all the players working their bags off to, make sure that they set the tone early, saying, hey, it's we're going to make it difficult for you. And so I think that's the linear part of that stat, is that we're just really learning how to clog up the middle of the ice and make it difficult.
Yeah. Any kind of final thoughts on how this team has been playing on this home stretch, and what they'll need to do to kind of keep the success going in order to potentially make the playoffs, Brogan?
Yeah, no, I think we've covered the majority of it. I just think the only thing to really mention is don't miss a game, you guys. This is must-watch hockey right now. A 6-1 win last night for them. That was something to see. Just don't prioritize going out with your friends. Stay home and watch hockey.
I feel like that was aimed at me. I was doing the worm last night when Keller put up 5 points. But no, you're absolutely right. We are 2 points behind the Canucks.
Yep.
They do have a game in hand.
Got a game against them.
Yeah. Canucks do have a game in hand. We've played 60. They played 59. But yeah, we this last stretch, and we only have one full game that we play between now and the trade deadlines against the Devils. So if we win there, you got to imagine we're gonna start hearing a little bit more whispers of Utah adding. So I couldn't be more stoked. Brogan, we really appreciate you always coming on and sharing your insight, and just being a pleasure to talk to.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun, you guys.
Yeah, for
sure.
Of
course. Also, I want you to be able to kind of drop that awesome piece that did it just get released, or it's about to get released? You were talking about pre-show. Awesome.
Yeah, so we just released a piece that I wrote sharing the story of both Kevin Stevens and Zane James. So Kevin Stevens, for those who don't know, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, he holds the record for playoff goals, like most goals in the playoffs, 17 goals in the playoffs in 91 or 92, I don't remember. Superstar in the NHL, and a drug addiction ended his career. And so he came to Utah recently, shared his story along with a family, the James family, whose son was also a hockey player, also got involved in addiction and lost his life to it. And so I was able to sit down with both Kevin Stevens and the James family and get their stories and put them together in an article. I think it turned out really well. And it's a really important message to get out there. And so if anybody's struggling with addiction or knows somebody that is, I think that the resources that are mentioned in that article and the stories can be inspiring and can help people. And so just a really important one. Go check that out on deseretnews.com or deseret.com.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you,
Sounds
Brogan.
like a must read. That article is called The Fight Off the Ice, and you can follow Brogan Houston on Twitter/X at Houston_Brogan and find all of his writing at the Deseret News. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Buckle up, baby, because this is going to be a fun couple weeks, month. Can't be more excited. So until next time, everybody, this is the Clean Hits Hockey Podcast. We'll catch you soon. Tusk up.
We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.